There may not be anyone here. That is a little upsetty spaghetti. That might be a little upsetty spaghetti. Considering I did like a little post of like, hey, in a little while, but it's Saturday. I've only like just got back into like the proper cadence of streaming this week. After like 3 weeks of like not streaming and such like that, I reckon it's gonna be a lot of people that are just gonna be like, hang on, when the fuck were you last streaming? And then I'm just gonna be like, Saturday, and they're like, that doesn't sound like when you stream, and it's just gonna be a case of like, nah, because I just got back into it. So yeah. Besides, like, this is also going to be one of those, like, short streams as well. Normally, I go for, like, 4-hour-long escapades and such like that. But, I already have plans for this afternoon, so I'm only going to be going on for, like, 3 hours instead. So, I will be, so yeah, so from, like, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I'm going to be in the game, and then 11 o'clock, it's just going to be like, yep, cool, done, shutting down, ending stream. I don't even know if I'm going to raid when it gets to it. But, you know, we'll see how we go. But yeah, that's the plan. But also, I'm not 100% certain if I've made, like, if it was Saturday or Sundays that I wanted to make the consistent stream. I feel like Saturdays would be the good one because, like, the reason I'm doing it in this morning is so then that way it's like a catch-22, or the opposite of a catch-22. Well, okay. The problem when you stream, like, outside of, like, the US and the UK is a catch-22, is that you can be streaming either for the time zone that you are for. So, for instance, like, me in Australia, Greenwich Mean Time, 10 hours. I could be streaming for the Greenwich Mean Time, the 10 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time peeps, the Australians, where, you know, Saturday morning cartoons and, you know, evenings on the weekdays are probably like better for the Australians than it is for the Americans, for instance, because, you know, 6 in the evening or 7 in the evening my time is like middle of the night or like 1 in the morning. Like, by the time I'm done streaming on the weekday, it's 2 in the morning for like one of the coasts in the US. Ah, Goldie!
Goldie 1993 with the 7-month tier 1 sub.
Hi there, Goldie. Thank you so much for resubbing for the last 7 months. I greatly appreciate it. You don't have to deal with any advertisements, and you get to utilize all the cool emotes. So yeah, I will be... So yeah, so where was I? Oh yeah, the catch-22. So yeah, so if I try and like aim for like American timing, I'm absolutely fucking over my either my work schedule or my my sleep schedule. So there was a time on like Saturdays, for instance, I was doing a little experiment of starting stream at like 9 or 10 in the evening, and the idea is that I was streaming at a time where for the Americans, it was the morning for them. So I was catching Americans in their morning, which, you know, was kind of all right. But then it's like, you know, I'm streaming 9 in the evening after having like a full fucking day. Like, I would essentially be someone like, you know, falling asleep, being extra sleepy on the streams and what have you. And like, I'm an introverted person at heart, where it's like, you know, I like being social and like doing the talking and such like that will expend energies and what have you. But at the same time, blah 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 blah. At the same time, I will be I will be blah 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 blah. I will be stuck. Brain, come on, do it. I like, you know, I will be, you know, going into an empty sort of like chat and what have you, and it's like if I don't have people like, you know, keeping me engaged as well, then like my brain is like slowly gonna go over into like shutdown mode. Hang on a sec, I got a text from my sister. Thank you, Timex, for being here first. Good morning. Alright, so... Okay, I might need to leave earlier than, like, 11 o'clock, actually. So this might be an even shorter stream because of, timing and what have you. Give me a second. So... If I wanted to arrive by... Give me a second. So if I wanted to arrive... Okay, so I need to get out of the door by... 10:50. Okay, so... Alright, so it's not a crazy amount of extra time. Like, it's gonna be less than 3 hours, but, let's see. So it wants me out of the door by... It's me to bring... Alright, so, hi there, Gaeta. Welcome. Wow, we haven't seen you in a while. So, already the Saturday morning stream is, like, paying off and all that kind of such, so... But yeah, where is my brain? Anyway, so yeah, so I will probably... Someone is going to need to remind me. So, what's the time right now? It's 8:06. Okay. So it needs to be less than 3 hours because I need to be getting out of the I need to be getting out of this place by blah 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 10:50, which right now it's 8:06, so 9 10, so 2 hours and 50 minutes. Actually, hang on a second. I can set myself an alarm on my phone actually. So, ding, 10... I'm gonna put down 10:40 as the, actually 10... Because I just need to swap pants, get shoes on, and then rush. Head to the train. Alrighty. 10:45. There we go. Alarm set. Alright. I do not have all the time in the world, so I'm going to need to get this game up and running. Ooh, there's a new update to SpeakerBot. I will need to do that another time. Hopefully everyone else is, like, slowly waking up and is having a wonderful time. Give me one moment, please, as I get Armored Core 6 up and running. Hopefully this thing says Armored Core 6. Yes, it does say Armored Core 6. Excellent. Alrighty then. Swap over to here. Look at all this cool fan art that we have while I wait for the game to load. But yeah, so I have not played this game in a little while. I've played like a little bit of it like yesterday and the day before, but Brain, you can do this. But like, you know, I've not progressed through the main story. There are missions in the main story that I need to get through before we, you know, go through anything else. And I remember each time I was going through this game, I was always getting hung up on, like, wanting to go up against a mini-boss, which may not be the right thing to do. Yep, cool. They're just warning me about the online thingamadiggy. So, yeah. Alright. This is my mech that I was running, like, you know, in, like, random missions and such like that. He is... I'm gonna be real with you, every time when I look at him and such like that, there are moments where I remember he looks a little bit like Buzz Lightyear. Now, I don't know why, but the mission I was going for was to eliminate Cinder Carla. Hang on a second. So, repeat briefing. Why was this?
Raven.
Ah.
This job comes from me.
The Rubicon lady.
A Rubiconian. Overseer is planning to burn the coral to extinction. I want to keep that from happening.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
The only way to stop the Xylem's ascent is by seizing control of its systems. And that means we have only one choice. We'll take advantage of the confusion while the corporations and Overseer are fighting, and eliminate Carla. I understand how you feel about betraying Walter's last wishes and taking on Carla. But still, I want you to give me a chance. I'm not asking Walter's hound, but Raven, the independent mercenary.
This is probably one of the problems of getting into a game that you've not played for like the last like little while, is that you kind of forget how to do some of the stuff. All right, so this is the head that I've got, which is this weird satellite fucker. That's Fair, which has better stability, slightly higher weight, worse system recovery, and not as great AP. That's a lot lower. This has a lot better AP. Has very low AP. This honestly might still be like a really good head to use because of like the scanning and such. This one has much better weight, way worse AP. But yeah. Oh, I don't really have that many heads. Okay. So I'm using the Emperor arms. I'm using the Frieza. Formezia, like thingamadoo, gills. What is this FC? Long range designed concept model for obliterating well before contact. Okay, so this is great for like long range. And then this is for medium range. This is our normal. So that was like our first generation. Then we had second generation, which does a crazy. So hang on, if I do this, so this was second generation, which was just a positive increase everywhere. Then that was for long range stuff, improvement on the long range, greater close range, overall improvement everywhere, but a crazier amount of weight. And then these two are overall improvements. All right, I'm gonna go for this one. Like that just seems like an improvement. This generator has a greater capacity, but not as great supply recovery or recharge. I'm gonna stick to you. And I got that for you. He looks a little bit like Buzz Lightyear. What is my... Yeah, cool. My sister says sounds good. Also, why am I dropping frames? Am I still dropping frames, or is it good? Okay, it's good. I thought for a second I was like, absolute... Because I just looked down in the bottom left and I see 7... Oh, is that number going up? Yeah, that number is going up. Why am I dropping more frames? Hang on. Twitch Inspector. Why does it think I'm dropping... Oh, because it's the weekday and I probably... Hang on a second. Let me just double check. Yeah, hang on a second. I need to turn something off. I'm seeing a couple dropped frames, so it's not super dire. Also, hi there, Donkey. Welcome. Good to have you. I needed to restrict something right now because I have a media server that, like, you know, I connect with friends and family with and such, and someone must be deciding to be like, hey, I want to watch this 4K thing. Please don't. So I'm just gonna like limit the thingy-majiggy real quick to try and recover some of the frames. So yeah. Hi, Donkey. We're going through sorry, not Metal Gear Solid. We're going through what's-a-mahoozy. We're going through the Armored Core game. I'm gonna remove the ask before backseating thingy-majiggy because I'm gonna be frank with you. I don't have the greatest I don't have the greatest what's-a-mahoozy in terms of blah blah blah, in terms of doing the Armored Core making and such like that. So yeah, this is the thing that I've got right now. Light Mist Plasma. But yeah, like, this is the evolution of, like, the different, like, you know, AC models that I've made. Some of them are, like, a little bit weirdy. And then I had, like, this golden rod thing. And then I went back over to here. So I really wish I could change colors and such like that, but... And then there's, like, downloaded? Oh, these are, like, presets from, like, people I've defeated and what have you. And some of these cost money. Dolan, and then we got someone named King, the G1, V1, 62. Okay, so this is the previous 621. Then we dealt with someone named Rumby, then we dealt with Index. And then those are downloaded, and then we have all these different user ones. All right. I'm gonna see how I go with this.
I was hoping you would take the job, Raven.
So yeah. We'll see how we do. Now, are we dropping any more frames? Hopefully not. 21,867. It looks like it's sustaining itself this time because, you know, I no longer have like I no longer have a media server trying to stream 4K content to a friend.
Activating combat mode.
All right, here we are.
Let's get started, Raven. As always, I'll support you. Carla has taken up command in the reservoir dome in the Xylem's port wing. You'll make enemies of both the corporations and Overseer by doing this. Please, be careful.
Oh, wow, okay. I don't...
Rubiconian apes, out of my way!
That's Wu Snail. The man who captured you at Institute City.
This is the guy that I kept getting stuck on.
How you want to deal with him?
Because he wants to, like... So there he is there, having his little combat. Let's see, how's he doing? Oh, I was targeting the wrong guy.
You fools don't know your place. You don't know when you're beaten. You don't even know what's good for you.
There we go.
So much for re-education. What a wasted effort.
Nice try.
Got a call by my superiors.
Shit.
Still clinging on, are you?
He does a lot of stunning, which is annoying.
All you know is to chase your master's prize. Eustace's badge. Recalcitrant to the last. AP at 30%. How into the abyss, dog?
Damn it, electrical discharge just... So that's the problem I have. Hi there, Capricious. Welcome, welcome. Are you familiar with the... armored core, like, all that kind of nonsense?
Main system activating combat mode.
Let's get started, Raven.
Maybe I should...
As always, I'll support you. Carla has taken up command in the reservoir dome in the Xylem's port wing. You'll make enemies of both the corporations and Overseer by doing this. Please,
So...
be careful.
There we go. Alright, so I only need to do, like, one...
My way.
That's V2 Snail. The man who captured you at Institute City. It's up to you how you want to deal with him.
Matter of fact, you're in uncharted territory for me. Ah, okay. That's not great. So, because that's V2 Snail right there. He's been a bit of a thorn on my side in trying to progress through this mission. There we go. Come on. Get it. Hit in before the electrical discharge. Come on. Yes! Oh, that was a good hit. Good hit. Good hit.
Still hanging on, are you? Old augmentation at its worst. All you know is to chase your master's prize. He was just as bad, you know. Recalcitrant to the last.
2 repair kits remaining.
Point blank range. Let's go. Oh, he's taken.
Has been refined to perfection.
He must have used like a little thingy. Damn it.
Against me.
AP at 30%.
Where the fuck does he? He likes going in for like a melee as well, I'm noticing. So I need to be like keeping my distance, but making sure I can get some hits in when I...
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
Come on, get moving. Damn it!
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
Where the fuck is he? There he is. And I have no more repair kits, which is a problem. Yes!
Nothing stop you, pest. You may have won this battle, but I'll win the war.
V2 Snail down. He's withdrawn.
God, that electrical discharge is...
Right-hand ammunition at 50%.
I used up like all of my repair kits as well. I am not gonna get a good rating here. Like, plasma could be good because of like the sustained damage it does on them and such, but...
What? The partition's locked us in.
Uh-oh.
Well, hi, tourist. How much did Archivist pay you?
Nothing?
Hate to see you go. Actually, why don't you stick around?
I'll handle the partition. You take care of this. Unlocked the partition.
Woo! If you wanted to be in chat, Cap, you're more than welcome to, by the by. I'm just sitting in the Oh wait, I'm not in the VC, am I? There we go, now I'm in the VC.
Figured you were beyond simple tricks. Chatty, fire up the ACs.
Carla, she's in there.
Oh, this would probably be a more difficult mission than normal because, yeah, I don't get I don't get supply refills, so I'm gonna die in this mission, and then I'm gonna have to respawn.
Get your laughs while you can.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're up to, but you better make it worth it.
Oh, she's got a lot of missiles on her back.
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Yeah, that's gonna be...
Ammunition at 30%.
Walter told me, you know. Pathetic. Walter must be turning in his grave.
Yeah. Am I gonna have to start this whole thing again? No, I can restart from checkpoint. Thank goodness. Alrighty.
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with.
Your girlfriend is big into it? Nice. Oh, Jesus.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
AP at 50%.
God damn you, Carla. Alright, you're annoying me.
AP at 30%.
Hang in there, Raven.
Damn it.
Focus on one at a time.
One repair kit remaining.
Chatty, still with me?
Getting my laughs while I can.
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
Pathetic. Walter must be turning in his grave.
Alright, I'm gonna probably need to get up to that platform and take on... Because I can't deal with, like, close range AIM-JC, like, forcing me to move around and such, and then all of a sudden I'm getting missile locked from up above.
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
AP at 50%.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
Damn it.
Focus on one at a time.
Chatty, still with me?
Getting my laughs while I can.
AP at 30%.
This is bad, Chief.
Pathetic. Walter must be turning.
Alright, so Chatty is on this. So Chatty is up there, and I can get him, like, real quick. Carla, meanwhile, is giving me problems. And I don't have a really good way to stun... I don't have a good way of, like, quickly doing stuns and such, which might need to be...
You know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Damn it, I'm out of... Get fucked.
Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
AP at 50%.
That's our tourist. Hope you've got room for more. I brought a full course meal.
Hence what...
At 30%.
Hang in there, Raven.
Damn it!
Focus on one at a time.
Pathetic. Walter must be turning in his grave.
Alright, I'm gonna need to think of something else. Maybe... I might need to change what my... Because, like, my left arm, like, I can do good hits in and what have you, but I might need to change this arm. Instead of being plasma, I might need it to be something that can do a little more... Maybe the heavy machine gun? Do I have something that will do stuns? I got a needle. What does this thing do? Okay, so it just does really quick hits, and that's detonating. That's a grenade launcher. Then that's jamming. I don't know if jamming is gonna do it. So it compromises the lock-on. And then that's a stun bomb. That's a flamethrower. Let's see how we go with a stun, I'm gonna see how we go with, like, using, like, a stun bomb.
Shetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
AP at 50%.
Pathetic. Walter
Nope.
must be turning in his
That gun does not have a fast reload, so I can't just, like, go, you know, sustaining fire to do an overload. I'm gonna have to try and go with, like, actual just... Also, it probably doesn't help that I didn't upgrade into that field. So, let's go with that machine... Let's go with the heavy machine gun, then.
Shetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Nope.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
Hang in there, Raven. Focus on one at a time.
Damn it! I almost got a chance of, like, doing, like, a full hit on her, but then I got knocked out because of Chatty.
Remaining.
That's our tourist. But we've got room for more. I brought a full course meal.
AP at 50%.
Chatty, still with me?
Getting my laughs while I can.
AP at 30%.
Pathetic. Walter must be turning in his grave.
Yeah, I need to go for Chatty. Cause, like, I get my comeuppance on Carla, but then like, you know, Carla gets covering fire from Chatty.
Shetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Damn it, and like that.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Pathetic. Walter must be turning in his grave. Shetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Nope. That did not work.
Shetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
AP at 50%.
Chatty, still with me?
Get repaired, come on.
Laughs while I can.
2 repair kits remaining.
Where the fuck did he... That's not Chatty. Where's Chat? There's you are, Chatty.
AP.
This is bad, Chief. Send tourist. Chief.
All right.
Get your
There we go. Got Chatty out of the way.
while you can.
Jenny! You've done it now, tourist. Times like this, I can't help but laugh.
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
God damn it.
Hang in there, Raven.
AP at 50%.
There we go.
Hope you've got room for more. I brought a full course meal. Is that all you've got? Come on! At least stay for dessert, tourist!
AP at 30%.
She's tougher than I thought.
Damn it.
Jenny, I'll take it from here.
All right. So the right hand that I have is not... The right hand isn't really doing much in the name of... blah, 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 blah. So this isn't doing much. I doubt that would, as either. This could do more sustained fire. Bucket might be better. Instead of 900, go for 200. My boost speed increases when I do it as well, reducing my weight and reducing the end load. Alright, how does this needle gun work, though? Is it literally that simple? Semi-auto that fires special needle-shaped ammo provides a good balance of power and impact. And then we got a bazooka over here. Then we got detonating bazooka. I could just do 2 detonating bazookas. They take time to hit, but, you know. And then we got jammers, and then we got a stun bomb. I wonder, like, here's the problem I have, is like, okay, I'm already using the detonating bazooka over here. So... Alright, I'm gonna try the Gatling gun, see how we go there. Let's see.
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you've been pathetic. Walter must be turning in his grave.
Yeah, this is the trouble of like going into a
You know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
come on.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
AP at 30%.
Pathetic.
Nah.
Walter must be turning in his grave.
Gatling gun ain't doing much for me. overheats too much. If I get close, Zimmerman might be good. Zimmerman, let's give that a try. Let's see how we do with the Zimmerman.
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Damn it! No! Get out of that little...
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends. Chatty, still with me?
Getting my laughs while I can. This is bad, Chief. Some tourist.
Chatty, did you just laugh? I owe you one tourist. No one...
Chief. Okay.
Pathetic.
Yeah.
Chatty, I'll take it from here.
Just after I took down Chatty, I get bombed out. I wonder if there's a way to... Let's see, so we got Zimmerman. Hang on, so... Let's see, mission cost. 52 rounds, takes 2 seconds to reload. It doesn't tell me... Lower range... Alright, so that will get... Actually, maybe... Greater recoil... Longer reload time. But it doesn't tell me how many, like, you know... How many shots in a quote-unquote clip is before I have... Magazine. Okay, here we go. 8. So, that's 7. That is total rounds. So, 7 rounds, 8 rounds, 5 rounds... Cumulative impact. That's what we had there. Bazooka does way more, and it takes like 3 seconds to reload, 4 seconds to reload. This is a jammer. Stun bomb, flamethrower. And we got laser rifles. Laser shotguns. Plasma, pulse. Missile launcher doing way more. It takes 3 seconds to reload. Pulse missile launcher. What does that look like? Maximum lock. Missile launcher as well. Reload. Alright, let's give this shotgun a try.
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice.
Yeah, once I get like that...
Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
2 repair kits remaining. AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
Hang in there, Raven. Go be something.
Pathetic. Walter must be turning in his grave.
I need to get up higher. I need to change the legs, because otherwise the, like the bipedal, I can hold more, but I need to change it from normal legs to, let's see, reverse joint should be, like, it lowers my AP by a bit, but greatly increases the boost speed, reduces the weight, yeah, and greatly increases the jump distance and height. So So I should be able to get around a little bit better.
Shetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Damn it, I don't see him.
You know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
AP at
Is that all you've got? Come on! At least stay for dessert, tourist!
2 repair kits remaining. AP at 50%.
There we go. Got one of them.
It's all you.
Chief, she's dead, tourist. You have made a big mistake.
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
That's not good.
Light and ammunition.
You're making this hard. Chief,
Where did he go?
wait for me.
So that was it. So, like, I went for... I thought I was hitting Chatty in the corner there, but it turns out to have been Carla instead, because she very much was, like, you know...
You know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief.
Get out of the fucking...
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice.
Nah. Fucked up on that one.
Shetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Once again, get... I can't get stunned on the opener like that.
Shetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them
Nah. At this point, I'm having that weird feeling of, like, I need to, like, perfect
You know
this
what we're
now.
dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
And once again, I forgot I am running with the shotgun.
Don't let them team up on you.
AP at
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
2 repair kits remaining.
That's our tourist. But we've got room for more. I brought a full course meal.
Damn it.
AP at 50%.
Got stunned again, and I got too focused on Carla instead.
Shetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
AP at 30%.
Hang in there, Raven. Focus on one at a time.
think the laser shoulder is going to be helping me out as much. My left side is like very explosive and such like that because I've got all this like, you know, extra overdrive nonsense. But nope. But the right side, I need to change this. So we got stun needle, which might be better. It's extra heavy, but quite frankly, that might be the better option.
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
And right at the get-go, I barely have.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a...
Nah. I need to get Chatty out. Like, she throws so many fucking missiles.
You know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Nah, got stunned again.
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, and you make no enemies. Or friends.
AP at 30%.
Nah, the needle is
There, Raven.
not doing... the stun needle is not doing well. I might need to do the, blah blah blah. So that was the stun needle, that's our laser cannon. It's another laser cannon that does, like, heavy. And this is plasma cannon. Let's go with missile and change you... Honestly, let's go for the jammer. That's on my right arm, so we'll see how that... No, not the entire mission. Let's restart from the checkpoint.
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Oh,
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice.
where the fuck is she?
Fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
Hang in there, Raven. Focus on one at a time.
That's our tourist. But we've got room for more. I brought a full course meal. Is that all you've got? Come on! At least stay for dessert, tourist!
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
She's tougher than I thought.
Nah, it's not helping me as much. Oof. Back to the assembly. It kind of, like, this kind of helps, but then I have, like, no damage, and it's just a fight of sustainability of all things. Honestly, we'll give the flamethrower a try and see what happens. And then, what's this grenade launcher like? Higher attack power, same sort of accumulative impact. Blast radius is way bigger, but we don't need a big blast radius. It's a special one. Let's see. Then we got vertical, and then what's this one? Weird. Alright, color me curious about that right shoulder. Left shoulder is still gonna be this giant fucker. Yeah, and that's a shield, which I don't care about. Alright. We're using a lot of all mine stuff, so maybe that'll help.
Chetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends. That's our tourist. But we've got room for more. I brought a full-course meal. Is that all you've got? Come on! At least stay for dessert, tourist!
AP at 50%.
Honestly, a lot better than I thought with the flamethrower. It doesn't like do a lot of like fast damage, but it's definitely like doing a little bit to it. Doing better than others. I wonder if it's because it has the side effect of.
We're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Yeah, he's slow as fuck.
Chetty, still with me?
Getting my laughs while I can.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
AP at 30%.
Hang in there, Raven. Focus on one at a time.
Damn it.
No repair kits.
Flamethrower is good when I get close, but
You know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on.
nah. I need to remember that after getting launch, I just need to press A.
Chetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Running straight through with the flamethrower going off doesn't seem to do it either.
Chetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Chetty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
AP at
Walter told me, you know.
look up a guide on these two. Like, I know I need to, like, be able to, like, focus on one before, or going on to the other, but it's kind of tricky to do that. They're kind of...
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
And my, AC got overlimited, so...
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
And I got back into the... Have you fought Ibis? Who the fuck...
You know what we're dealing with.
I am right now facing off against Carla and Stick. I have no fucking idea who Ibis is. Like, they probably... Like, if it's a throwaway name in the past...
You know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends. Chatty, still with me?
Getting my laughs while I can.
2 repair kits remaining.
I don't know who...
At 30%.
Hang in there, Raven. Focus on one at a time.
Damn it, that's not Chatty. Right now, I'm trying to eliminate Carla. If you're willing to, like, you know, ask about these kinds of questions, maybe just like double, because I have not played this game in like 3 years. So there are elements where I'm just sort of like, yeah, okay, let me just try this, let me try that. I would recommend looking up who the fuck Ibis is. Because who knows, maybe I did fight Ibis like a while ago or something. Like, I remember going into like this, like, float, like before the floating city went up and all. I'm not gonna quit out because like I'm in the middle of a mission right now, but who knows, maybe I did.
You know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Damn it.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends. Chatty, still with me?
Getting my laughs while I can.
Pathetic. Walter must be turning.
Recently got the game. Cool. Like, it's been out for a while, there's been patches and what have you, and there's definitely been, like, people filtered through this thing already, and, like, I know Izzy has already, like, gone through this game or something like that, and they've been like, is this really a game for you, and such like that? But here's the thing, is that, like, my whole, like, crusade with, like, From Software, and, like... Hang on. Is there a way to... Controller vibration, nah, that don't fucking matter. Camera speed, not really. I'm already limiting the frames. X is to do the quick boost, like left, right, up, and down. Merge weapons and options. Dunk. But like, this, like, I talked about this the last time I was streaming as well, when I was going through Yakuza games, is that, like, I know some people are like, oh, the point of the Souls-like is that it has to be difficult. And I'm like, difficulty is not a genre. It is a flavor to the genre, okay? You can have Indian without burning your tongue, okay? That's why there's buttered chicken and tikka masala. Like, difficulty shouldn't be in, like, the thing. Like, some people might argue of, like, oh, is it... Because, like, you know, when you get into subgenres of, like, the first-person shooters between, like, you know, boomer shooters versus the mil sims, they're like, oh, mil sims are supposed to be, like, harder than boomer shooters, but I would counter that with, you know, there are some boomer shooters that are honestly actually more difficult because you have to engage with the systems differently than you would in classic like COD and Battlefield and what have you. But again, difficulty should not be in the genre. Like, is a puzzle game, is the puzzle genre difficult? Because I would argue that puzzle genre doesn't, you know, care about difficulty. There can be difficult puzzles and there can be easy puzzles, but that doesn't come into the discussion. So why we do with Souls-like and then comes the, oh, then it's like, you know, it's not a Souls-like, it's an RPG, but it's like, but RPG is like, you know, like, this is clearly not an RPG. There's aspects of the role-playing game and what have you that, sure, but this has more in line with third-person shooter and what have you than with an RPG.
Chatty.
And what's more is, like, I have gone through, like, Dark Souls 1 and such like that. The fact that these games can be... Ow. Okay, maybe I need to actually change my,
Chatty.
because I'm getting, like,
You know what we're dealing
knocked,
with.
like,
Pin
really
that Taurus
quickly.
down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Also, can I lock onto you, please? Damn, Chatty.
Chatty. You know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told...
Sure, this is a game that can...
You know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Walter told me you... No. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies.
Alright, I'm just gonna accept defeat. I need to save this AC data and go for something else.
At 30%.
Come on.
Hang in there, Raven.
There we go.
Walter.
I need to change this build. It is... I am not one for, like, you know, middle ground or, like, lightweight. I need to not be. AC data... Oh, I can't save it! Shit! Alright, so we got... I'm gonna give that a try. Let's give this a try.
Chatty. You know what we're dealing with. Pin that Taurus down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them team up on you.
Nah. Like,
AP.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, you make no enemies. Or friends.
2 repair kits remaining. AP at 30%.
nah, let me just accept defeat here.
Hang in there, Raven. Focus on one at a time.
Come on.
Pathetic. Walter.
Alright, I'm gonna look up a guide. Heading onto Google. Carla and Chatty. Carla and Chatty fight. How to beat Carla and Chat. Doesn't do so well point blank with tracking, and her weapons really aren't suited for close range combat because this is a delay between her fire than actually coming at you. You can start on lower their pillars to cover. Seek you out while Charlie tries to find a good angle. You can essentially turn this into a and then both are missile gunners. Stay close, stay mobile. There's no point in keeping track of lock on target when hundreds of missiles are flying. Keep moving. Okay. So, right at the get-go, let's go for... Where is it? There was this sort of meme where if you wanted to... Attitude stability is higher. Alright, hang on, let me change my... where is it? Stability. System recovery. Thing. Yeah, I'll keep to you. You're the Amphira arms, which we could probably go to. You're fine. Your gills. Target acquisition. Let's improve the close range. So yeah. Alright, here we go. Here we go. So, if they're both gonna be...
Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
I got Chief. Supporting.
Don't let them see
That's our tourist. But we've got room for more. I brought a full course meal. Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, and you make no enemies. Or friends. Is that all you've got? Come on! At least stay for dessert, tourist!
AP at 50%.
There we go.
Music. Chatty. It's all you.
Chief. She's dead, tourist. You have made a big mistake. You're making this hard. I can hear the Chief laughing.
AP at 50%.
Yes, I can do everything.
AP at 30%.
Guess you...
Oh my god. So, years ago when I first played this, like, one of the first, like, quote-unquote metas that popped up for, like, oh, just run this build for, like, the longest time was the Zimmerman Songbird.
center is locked out.
So basically, you just ran dual Zimmerman, one in each hand, and then Songbird, which is just like, you know, 2 grenade mounts on your shoulders, on each shoulder.
Inheriting privileges. Owner, St. Carla. Activating perimeter protocol.
So, yeah.
Propulsion vector locked. All systems locked out.
That's not good, because we were trying to stop this thing and now it's locked. Shit. Base pay, we got a decent bonus pay, but holy shit, the repair and armor penalty, like, oh my god, such a high cost. But hey, at least log hunt went well. Ooh, another generator, nice. That one will be more Rubicon fuel related, so it's gonna be like red jets instead of blue. The fucking Zimmerman.
Carla had planned everything. Even her own death.
Hi, Sky. Welcome,
Just
welcome.
like Walter. They both wanted someone to inherit their legacy. The Rubiconians are continuing to resist the corporations on the ground, even now. The potential of humanity and Coral isn't the only thing we have to protect. Raven, there has to be something we can do.
Oh my god, that was hilarious. Alright. Save that build. But yeah, I was using the moon blade for quite a bit. Uses a core expansion which has not yet been unlocked yet. Oh my god. Alright, hang on. What's the... core expansion. Assault, pulse, pulse protection. So they want us using those. Boost kick. Weapons bay. Weight control. So this was assault armor. Unlocks core expansion. So it allows it to be installed. So it costs like 100,000. And then we've got system unlocks. Yeah, so those are the system unlocks. And then these are the core expansions. 39. It's not bad, it's not bad. Sweet 16 shotgun. And then we've got split missile.
Did you see it?
What did I miss? Ever been in a tornado or a twister? Absolutely not. Never have been. Never planning to either. That's not something I want to deal with. But yeah, Reneganmon was asking like, oh, have I fought hang on a sec. So, we've done the illegal entry. We've destroyed the artillery installations. We did Grid 135 cleanup. We destroyed transport helicopters. Got rid of a tester AC. So basically, we did a reversal on like most of those Gundam and Evangelion openers, where it's like, oh, this is just a school student. What do they know about piloting ACs? And then they become a prodigy. This obviously subverts that by being like, oh, here's a student testing an AC. Absolutely annihilate him. Attacking the dam complex, destroying the mining thing, wall climber, retrieving battle logs, investigate the arsenal thingamadiggy, head to watch point where we dealt with whatsamahoosies, infiltrate the grid, edited the dozer faction, did an ocean crossing, steal surveillance, attack a refueling base. We eliminated Swineburn of the Vespers. We destroyed some sort of dedicated device. We surveyed the uninhabited floating city. We did heavy missile launch support. Destroy the Special Forces craft. Some weird caterpillar thing. Attack the old spaceport. We eliminated Honest Brute. So those two are pending. We picked up some historic data. We destroyed the ice worm using the help of the stun needle. We then explored 3 different levels of depth. We ambushed the Vespers, Hawkins, and Patter. We went to look for the Coral Convergence. Reached the Coral Convergence. We escaped using an old AC unit. And then... So then and then this is what we just did. We went for eliminating Cinder Carla, not taking the inhabited city. So next mission is to destroy the drive block. Alright.
I'll explain our mission. His last trick has rendered the Xylem inoperable. There's only one way left to stop it from colliding and igniting the coral. We have to take the whole thing down. The lower drive block is powered by large Skirmian generators distributed throughout the area. If we destroy all the generators and stop the
Thank you for the Star Wars shirt.
City sector, then we can crush the Xylem into the Alien Ocean without impacting human life. One more thing. I took the liberty of using your name to rally allies to our aid. Beyond scorched skies,
Hey!
Raven fights on. No one has shaped Rubicon's destiny as much as you have.
Cool.
Come and see what the name Raven means to them.
If you like it, then why'd you take it? Alright, I'm just gonna go with our dual Zimmerman and what Sahoo's and see how that
Let's
goes.
go, Raven. One of our allies should be arriving already.
So yeah, because I don't have, like, all the time in the world. I only have until, like, 10:40-ish. I could arrive at the train station earlier for my sister, but I told her, like, you know, I'll be there about this time. Best of luck to me and my gear.
It looks like the guest of honor's here. Hey, buddy. Never thought I'd be rubbing shoulders with the liberator of Rubicon.
Hey, Rusty.
Every Rubiconian who heard your cry rose up to fight. Let's show them there's a future for Rubicon beyond these scorched skies.
Main system activating combat mode.
V4, Rusty, was the first to offer his help.
Never thought the plan would go so wrong. But it's good teaming up with you again. Couldn't have hoped for a better silver lining.
AP at 50%. 2 repair kits remaining.
That's a cool weapon.
Those laser cannons are keeping us out. Target's inside. Let's hurry this up.
Where the fuck are we? Oh. Wait, what? Oh, did I, like, skip a checkpoint and then they're just sort of like, oh, hey, you need a... Of course. I thought you were a merc, now you're a resistance fighter? This story's a little bit weird. We were like some random dude, and now... There we go.
Even more of our ADs and Ts.
Let's clean up, buddy.
It's...
Target confirmed. That's one of the skirmish generators.
There we go. Broke that.
3 remaining.
But yeah, so we were like an
It's
independent,
the
like,
Liberation Front is broken into
thingamadoogie.
Institute City.
We
You should hear this.
we were like independent. We went with a handler named Walter. Walter did like all kinds of jobs just to help us keep alive. And then we didn't really side with any corporations or anything like that. And then, you know, we had like random options of like being able to support Liberation Front to, you know, get the corporations out of, you know, Rubicon because, you know, they fucked it over and, you know, basically an Afghanistan sort of storyline, I think, is what's going on here. And someone decided that it's like, oh, hey, because the corporations are fighting over this place, let's, you know, and they think the Rubicons aren't strong enough, let's just plow a,
Work paying off.
like a city size, like, you know, ship into a processor thing and destroy, like, all Rubiconian, and which is, like, this unique resource to the planet, like, just blast it out and, like, you know, really fuck over the planet, which is, like, that is a very extra thing to do in trying to, oh, shit.
That's the machine from grid 086.
Looks like we got our work cut out for us. It'll be just like...
Ah, damn it. I need it.
I see. The intake's vulnerable. I'll get its attention. You handle the shooting.
There we go.
AP at 50%. Right-hand ammunition at 50%.
Yeah, because if you can... I remember fighting this thing before. It's like you just need to shoot at the top and then...
Enemy defense is compromised. Just a little more.
We've got it now. Finish it off, buddy.
There we go. And then... almost there.
Left-hand ammunition.
Gotcha. Hi there, Fizz. Welcome, welcome.
Smart cleaner destroyed. Wait. Detecting hostiles ahead of the silo. Enemy fleet approaching.
Guess Archibus decided to escalate. They must really want us dead. Let me handle the fleet. You've got a mission to finish.
Also, these are all human-sized vehicles down here, and then this is the size of the mech.
Thanks, Raven.
That's, like, it's crazy when, you know, it decides to give you a little reminder of, oh, this is what the scale of, like, human to mech is like.
We're entering the drive block's core. Watch out for ambushes. There's 2 Skirmian generators left. Once we've shut those down, we need to deal with the ramjet engine. Destroy the generators and head outside.
Sustaining major damage! We're dropping like flies out here!
Target is 1AC. Identification... Speed 4. What? He's supposed to be dead.
Full barrage! Don't let him get any closer!
You're out of luck. There's only one person who can keep up with me.
Right-hand ammunition at 30%.
Yeah, that's not great. Alright, so that was just like a silly detour. No secrets that I can see or any... God, this place can get confusing after a bit. Alright, let's have a look. Oh, that's probably the way through. Nope, that's not the way through. The album is good, don't get me wrong. in the fuck do I get out of here? I can't get through this thing. Where do you want me going? Oh, is this it? Yeah, there we go.
3 generators destroyed. 1 more to go.
Right-hand ammunition at 10%.
All Skirmian generators destroyed. Get clear, Raven. The drive block's going to explode.
Bad news, buddy. Something said it's straight for your position. I've never seen something move that fast. They must have finished work on Balteus.
Raven, we need to get outside fast.
Ah, there we go.
Left-hand ammunition at 30%.
Here we go. All right. Hi, Bookie. Outside.
Raven the independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
Alright, so there's Snail.
That machine!
Oh, it's this guy from,
You are vermin.
EMS Amnesia. AAP-07A. Archivist Balteus.
That is gonna take a minute to...
V2 Snail.
At 30%.
The Zan is doomed. Good. It would be most inconvenient to see our hard-won coral go up in smoke. Rabble-rousing the locals. Another inconvenience, but I'll overlook that. No, your crime is that you tried to kill me. Kill Archibus. You are vermin, and I'm finally dead, are you?
Oof.
Now I'll have to re-educate those apes. More housekeeping.
Yeah, I hate Snail. Not as a mech. Like, this will be an interesting fight. I just need a better because like doing the dual Zimmerman is not gonna do it. So because he's got a shield, I fought this kind of nonsense before. You use the pulse, and once we have an opportunity to do big hits on him, we'll use the moonblade thingamadoogie. Earshot and all that is fine. All right. Restart from checkpoint. Here we go.
Raven the independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
Here we go.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
Analyzing enemy data. AAP-07A. Arquebus Valteus. Pilot identified as V2 Snail.
Damn it! He does a big hit. And I need a...
50%.
Asylum is doomed. It would be most inconvenient to see our hard-won coral go up in smoke. Rabble-rousing the locals. Another inconvenience, but I'll overlook that. No, your crime is that you tried to kill me, kill Arquebus. You are vermin, and I will be rid of you.
Energy output's off the charts. Be careful, Raven.
One repair kit remaining.
Getting desperate. Shit.
Second fleet has been wiped out. We can't get a lock on him.
We're bearing the enemy AC down. Maintain fire! How's it looking, buddy? I'd say I'm about halfway done. Dale might beat me too, but he's second to none. Stay focused.
No repair kits remaining. AP at 50%. Right-hand ammunition at 30%. AP at 30%.
Nah, this is not gonna be the fight.
Finally dead, are you? Now I'll have to re-educate those apes. More housekeeping.
I wonder, is the shield going away and I don't... like, periodically and I don't need it? Also, this, not as cool. So we're gonna go with the detonating bazooka. Actually, yeah, we're gonna go with detonating bazooka, so then that way we can get like a real good hit. Earshot is fine. Orbit helps us do additional like laser nonsense. All right, let's give this a try. So yeah, because we like that pulse gun helps us break through the shields quicker. So the only other weapon that might be decent is like plasma because of like, you know, it does a sustained fire, but the problem is that if he moves around too much, he doesn't stay in the little orb.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
Analyst enemy data. AAP-07A. Arquebus Valteus. Pilot identified as V2 Snail.
Go.
Asylum is doomed. Good. It would be most inconvenient to see our hard-won coral go up in smoke. Rabble-rousing the locals. Another inconvenience, but I'll overlook that. No, your crime is that you tried to kill me, kill Arquebus. You are vermin, and I will be rid of you.
Energy output's off the charts. Be careful, Raven.
The second fleet has been wiped out. We can't get a lock on him.
We're bearing the enemy AC down. Maintain fire! How's it looking, buddy? I'd say I'm about halfway done. Dale might beat me too, but he's second to none. Stay focused.
AP at 30%. AP at 50%.
Damn it, it overheated. Jesus Christ.
That traitor V4, those dolts at command. And worst of all,
What the shit?
the Rubicon who stirred the cinders. You sicken me, all of you. I'll crush you underfoot. I am Arquebus.
No repair kits remaining. AP at 50%.
Just stay out of his, like...
Right-hand ammunition at 10 AP at 30%. Right-hand ammunition depleted.
Shit! That's not good. Just punch him.
Finally dead, are you? Now I'll have to re-educate those apes. More housekeeping.
I wonder if there's a way to, like, do the shield way more. Because, like, Pulse is good against shields and what have you. Is the, like, I distinctly remember that. This has way more ammo, but less, Hang on, let's have a look. So... This is the AP doesn't want. Cooling, ammo cost. Attack heat up is way less. Alright, let's change from laser orbit. Let's see, what's this one? Plasma. And then we got laser turret. Turret might be better. Does way more cumulative impact. So yeah, this does 2,000 damage, that does 1,200. So that won't be the same. Yeah, so 2,000 damage versus... Let's see... Yeah, nothing else is going to be doing as heavily as the ear shot. This will give us a lot more AP. That's the Amphera. Wrecker, that overloads us. We got Orbiter, then we got the V, Tiang, Jailbreak. Alright, so this is Mind Alpha. And that's Beta, Vera, Alpha again. Doesn't give us much in defense of explosive, but he's not doing a lot of explosive. He's doing a lot of energy. Energy and plasma, so that will be better. We'll go for something a little more medium and long range. Let's see. This one does a much better capacity, like twice, but we don't get much in the name of recovery. And then that's assault armor. Cancel out pulse defenses. No pulse defenses. I'm gonna change to the nebula here and see. Wait, did I just make? No. Okay, cool. I was worried I just made like both. Like, alrighty. Let's see how we do this time around. This one isn't as frustrating. This one is. Like, the Carla and What's-a-Mahoozy, I think I've gone out of my frustration mode. Now I'm actually...
Independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
Analyzing enemy data. AAP-07A. Arquebus Beltaeus. Pilot identified as V2 Snail.
overheated, that's why.
Good. It would be most inconvenient to see our hard-won coral go up in smoke. Rabble-rousing the locals. Another inconvenience, but I'll overlook that. No, your crime is that you tried to kill me. Kill Artemis. You are vermin, and I will be rid of you.
It's off the charts.
Finally dead, are you?
Nah, I need the pulse to get him out of the shields.
Educate those apes.
The pulse gets him out of the shields way quicker. Yeah. The pulse is just too good to ignore to get him out of the initial shield. So I'll go for the weaker of the two, because like this one is like a lot stronger, but I think it overheats like way quicker. Yeah, this one like only on 35. It doesn't do as much damage or impact, but you know, the smaller gun might be more suitable, and I just need to remember not to, you know, sustain fire it.
Raven the independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
Analyst Epizilla. AAP-07A. Archivist Valteus. Pilot identified as V2 Snail.
AP at 50%.
The Xylem is doomed. Good. It would be most inconvenient to see our hard-won coral go up in smoke. Rabble-rousing the locals. Another inconvenience, but I'll overlook that. Finally dead, are you? Now I'll have to re-educate those
Nah.
apes.
So
More housekeeping.
Bellatus. AC6 are... Once again, we're looking up guides on how to fight these things, because it's been 3 years and I just do not have the brain power to do it in the morning. Dual Gatling, dual stud needles. Nope, that's a lot of... Hang on a second. Aquibus. Pulse weapon. So pulse blade or either of the pulse guns. Exact same as the... What's Mahuzi's? So if you do dual pulse guns, add one pulse cannon if needed. It can easily wipe his shield. Use something that hits hard, like the pile bunker, to deal with its hull. Alright, so I was kind of in the right direction, but this explosive fucker is not going to be doing it too well. That's the light wave. So this is the pulse blade. Then we got laser lance, laser blade, chainsaw. So yeah, that does a lot of damage and is like, you know, we just run in with that one. Go back to this. Plasma, detonating, dual missile launchers. Laser cannon, stun needle, grenade, Gatling cannon, laser drone. Do I really not have anything pulse related in this? Plasma, laser drone. Alright, let's see how we do with the pile. So the pile driver's left arm. Cool. Awesome. So we break the shields with the main weapon, and then pile bunker.
Raven the independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
AMS enemy data. AAP-07A. Archibus Valteus. Pilot identified as V2 Snail.
AP at 50%.
Damn it. Alright, hang on. I got hit a lot of times in his first phase when I shouldn't have. I do not know if the stun needle is doing what I think it's worth doing.
Raven the independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
AMS enemy data. AAP-07A. Archibus Valteus. Pilot identified as V2 Snail.
The Xylem is doomed. Good. Would be most inconvenient to see our hard-won coral go up in smoke. Rabble-rousing the locals. Another inconvenience, but I'll overlook that. No, your crime is that you tried to kill me. Kill Archibus. You are vermin, and I will be rid of you.
Energy outputs off the charts. Be careful, Raven.
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
The second fleet has been wiped out! We can't get a lock on him!
Tearing the enemy AC down.
Energy output is ramping up again.
Out of my sight, vermin.
I can barely keep an eye on him.
Those don'ts at command. And worst of all, you, the pistol. Finally dead, are you? Now I'll have to re-educate those.
Alright, so the laser thingamadiggy, or the stun thingamadiggy was not that great. So I can change that into anything else. The pile driver did some pretty good damage, though. So we'll stick to that pile driver. Alright, so you... let's change you to earshot. So yeah, so now we're dual earshot. Alright. Doing a lot of grenade damage. I don't know if the grenade damage from earshot will be good, but we'll see.
Raven the independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
AMS enemy data. AAP-07A. Archibus Valteus. Pilot identified as V2 Snail.
Damn it. Damn it.
The Xylem is doomed. Good. It would be most inconvenient to see our hard-won coral go up in smoke. Rabble-rousing the locals. Another inconvenience, but I'll overlook that. No, your crime is that you tried to kill me. Kill Archibus. You are vermin, and I will be rid of you.
Energy outputs off the charts. Be careful, Raven.
AP at 30%.
Nah, I fucked up. I fucked up my opener, because using... Like, the minute I'm using, like, 2 repair kits in, like, the first phase, I know I'm not gonna be able to sustain this.
Raven the independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
Investigate data. AAP-07A. Archibus Valteus. Pilot identified as V2 Snail.
The Xylem is doomed. Good. It would be most inconvenient to see our hard-won coral go up in smoke.
Yeah, I don't think the ear shots are doing that much for me.
But I'll overlook that. No, your crime is that you tried to kill me. Kill Archibus. You are vermin, and I will be rid of you.
Energy output's off the charts. Be careful, Raven.
The second fleet has been wiped out! We can't get a lock on him!
Wearing the enemy AC down. Maintain fire! How's it looking, buddy? I'd say I'm about halfway done. Dale might beat me too, but he's second to none. Stay focused.
AP at 30%.
Energy output is ramping up again.
Out of my sight, vermin. That traitor V4. Those dogs at command. Finally dead.
Yeah, I don't think the cannons are doing it.
Now I'll have to re-educate.
Do you know you can hard lock on? If it isn't the little right thumbstick like pressing in, if it isn't that, then it's gonna be like, hang on. I swear to Christ, if I've been pressing the wrong thing. So I got the target. Is the hard lock on target assist? Because if it isn't, then what the fuck is hard lock on? It's been 3 years since I've played this game. And I forgot to assemble the thing. Fuck. Because I need something different on the shoulders, because explosive damage is not doing it. I need, like, something else, like, that can be more penetrative. The pile driver has been great.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
Analyzing enemy data. AAP-07A.
Come on.
Archibus Valteus.
Nope.
Identified as V2 Snail.
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
I'm just gonna let him kill me at this point.
The Xylem is doomed. Finally dead, are you? Now I'll have to
You definitely can lose your lock, by the by. Like, you can definitely lose your lock. Like, it doesn't do, like, it doesn't remove the necessity of, like, you know, oh, the left thumbstick. Because if he decides to, like, you know, shoot himself up into the sky and I'm not following him when he does that, then I'm definitely going to lose my lock. But yeah, these grenade cannons are not doing it. Stun needle isn't that great. Laser cannon might be better. Although we got plasma cannon is pretty tough. I'm gonna go with you and where's the laser cannon? Laser drone, plasma missile. Yeah, let's go plasma missile launcher. Let's go you two. That's soft lock. You literally cannot lose unless you manually unlock it.
Raven the independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
So right now it's like...
That machine!
You're below that. You are
Alright,
vermin.
so click.
Analyzing enemy data. AAP-07A. Archibus Valteus. Pilot identified as...
Maybe it's because I was, like, moving it and such, it was gonna be a problem. Nice. Oh, shields back on. But didn't really lose a lot of... The pile driver was doing good, but now it's... Oh, Jesus.
Rabble rousing the locals. Another inconvenience, but I'll overlook that. No, your crime is that you tried to kill me, kill Arquebus. You are vermin, and I will be rid of you.
Get back down here, please.
Energy output's off the charts. Be careful, Raven.
Yep, and then I over...
AP at 30%.
More rations. Great.
Why did I hear the McDonald's, like, noises? There we go. There! That's what we want.
Get a lock on him!
Wearing the enemy AC down. Maintain fire!
Energy output is ramping up again.
Out of my sight, vermin. That traitor V4, those dogs at command. And worst of all, you, the pest of Rubicon who stirred the cinders. You sicken me, all of you. I'll crush you underfoot. I am Arquebus.
AP at...
Alright, so the pile driver has a very short range, is the thing.
I don't
There we
care
go.
what gender you are. Put on the maid outfit.
AP at 30%.
The enemy's taking critical damage.
We're losing the flagship!
Boy fighters, we need cover! Knew there'd be more.
There we go, gets rid of quite a bit of his... Yep!
They're gonna finish this, right? I guess I'm
Come
not
on. Come on. Yeah!
Arquebus!
Okay, because I was I was constantly like clicking in and out of like hard and soft lock, and it probably wasn't helping that after doing hard lock, I would still like move the mouse around trying to get the... So yeah, that was probably the problem, is like, once I hard locked, I was like, oh hey, let me just ding. Also, hi Blue.
Hello, now you notice me.
Rusty's
Yeah.
signal just disappeared.
Hang on, let me show you what I'm
Raven,
streaming.
it seems we've got
Frames a
trouble ahead.
second.
We need to take down the Xylem.
720p, there we go. That way, you know, you can see, like, in a more live kind of thing. I am catching up on this thing. I have, like, 40 minutes left-ish. Well, nah, let's go for an even 30. Let's go for an even... I got 30 minutes left to try and get through as much as I can before I need to go and catch a train.
Augmented human C4621. Entering standard mode.
Alright, here we go. So yeah, so this is my build. Suplex it? Wait, what do you mean suplex it? Alright. Easy, no work. Cool, awesome. So yeah, I don't have any OST chips, but yeah, I just constantly use the assault armor. Allows it to be installed, creates a pulse explosion centered on the AC, cancelling out incoming enemy fire and creating a damaging area of effect. Increases defensive. I wish there was a video to show what these do. Terminal armor.
Try it out and find out.
It costs money. But yeah, kinetic weapons is like maxed, explosive is second up there. Got nothing for the energy weapons, and then I'm maxed out into the melee and direct hit modifiers. So yeah, so I was like going more for like explosions and such like that. The train. Oh no. I'm not like, I only barely understand that reference because it's like apparently Final Fantasy related, but I don't go through the Final Fantasy series. I have gone through one Final Fantasy game, and that's Final Fantasy XIV. Blue, meanwhile, Blue over here has gone through several old, like, if you want to follow a streamer that does, like, you know, the cool you know, playing games of nostalgia and such like that, especially on the Nintendo, you should go for Blue Foxy Nicey Icy. If this thing will
I
work.
need to figure out my list of games to stream.
You'll figure it out. It's the new year, okay? Like, I started this stream, and, like, for the first 10 minutes, there was, like, no one said hi and all this kind of such, because, you know, I was on break for, you know, a couple of weeks, so once you get, you know, back into the groove of things in January, I reckon, post-Australia Day, you'll get into a cadence.
I just remembered a game that I actually need to redo again.
What do you need to redo?
I need to redo Ocarina of Time. Yeah, that's been on hiatus for a long time, and I might as well just restart.
Alright. So, the next mission I have, once again, is bring down the Xylem. Okay.
The Xylem
I knew
is
I followed
beginning
you
its
for a
descent.
reason. Shilling your
Now,
friends is a good
we
bean
just need to destroy
behavior.
the railway engines.
Look, he who stands alone.
Let's put an end to
Like,
this
Blue
event.
is one of those few Australian streamers that still talks to me, okay?
Rubicon.
Despite this accent, I live in Australia, and there are so few of them that decide to, like, still keep in connection with me and what have you. It is very tough making Australian friends. It's me, Blue, Code, and... yeah, I think that's it in, like, my circle of, like, people from Australia who still communicate with me. Velk is one of my moderators, but Velk doesn't stream all that often. And I don't consider Velk, like, a streamer friend. I consider Velk a friend. Like, yeah. What were you gonna say, Blue?
Oh, I was just basically gonna say that I think it's not just Australian friends now, it's just in general. It's just hit in general now.
In general, friends is hard to come by. It's like, no, it's just, this was the observation I made with the whole, it's a lot into, like, furries and streaming is where I found this but, you know, I don't know if this is with Australia in general, just because, like, you know, when I was at school, quickly make friends. When I'm at work, quickly have some good connections and what have you. But when it comes to streaming and when it comes to furries, very secondary kind of areas and what have you, Australians are, like, relatively difficult to make friendships with and what have you. I was able to get into a trivia group thanks to one ex-work friend, and that has been very great and what have you. If you are trying to make friendships with, like, no prior social relationships and such like that, you will find it tricky in Australia. Because what I've observed, inherently speaking, they're busy, and they're not interested in a lot of change. You can see that in their marketing, you can see that in brand recognition, or, like, brand loyalty, so to speak, and you will see that in trying to make friends and what have you. They will be, like, they're friendly. There isn't, like, a thing of, like, oh, you will accidentally make a friend with, like, the worst racist you've ever met kind of thing. But by gosh, will you have a hard time making friendships if you don't have a connection, like, some other, like, third-party connection with them already. So, like, yeah. It's tough. Alright, let me...
Tough in this day and age, so... Well, it's come down to finding people of more than just mutual interest.
Yes.
Yes,
you
I
need to get
understand
further than
that. Like, I understand that people got their own lives, like, we all branch off at some point, but there's a difference between branching off and saying hi and then just going away and not saying anything.
Yeah, and with, like, a lot of Australians are sort of like, you need to put the effort in first. It's very difficult, whereas with Americans, the Americans that I've, like, you know, like, had communicated with and such like that, connection was so fast, and then it's so, like, and then it's on you, like, as a recipient, rather, like, after the fact, rather than, like, you know, like, the effort comes in, like, sort of after the connection, rather than before.
It's just how it is nowadays. Yeah, you know what? I am just going to keep moving forward. Like, that's all you can really do, to be honest.
Exactly, yeah.
And to be fair though, you shouldn't let other people dictate how you are.
Ain't no one like me except me. Alright, where is this? Oh, not this way.
So yeah, what's your opinion on them releasing the 30th anniversary Pikachu plush, which is basically them going back to the chunky Pikachu design?
I have not seen it. I thought they were only doing advertisement of Lego and that it's like, congratulations, 30th anniversary. I did not know anything about a fucking chunky plush. What the fuck do you mean they're releasing a chunky plush?
Coral's safe.
Yes, to celebrate 30 years of Pokemon, right? It's been 30 years. And trust me, I've been waiting for over 20 years for Ash to finally win a freaking Pokemon League.
Well, he did, didn't he?
60.
Like,
Yeah.
a few years ago he did.
Yeah, and then later became champion, alright? So, you know how long that took? Freaking people nowadays, Pokemon fans that just came in, don't understand how pissed we got in, like, Diamond Pearl, where he versed a freaking trainer that had a freaking Darkrai and a Latios. What the hell was that?
61.
Anyway, I sent you the link. You know, I better send you an image as well. 30th anniversary.
But that AC.
And honestly, I do want one of these. Freaking, I better check. How much is one of these?
Orders.
That is a...
Eliminate all obstacles.
Whatever they did, you're in danger.
Oh!
We have to
Where the fuck is he? There he is.
The greatest obstacle. Eliminated.
That's gonna be difficult. Alright, hang on. Now to... You gave me a link, did you? Alright, let's look at this plush. Let's look at this chunky boy. Noodled. Hi there, Snippy Kitty. Welcome, welcome. Got absolutely devastated. Though, to be fair, I did it with, like, a pulse gun and such like that from the previous build, which would not be appropriate. Yeah, that's a... maximum chonk. So they are listening to, like, the audience and what have you. Because I reckon if they didn't have... Like, if they didn't hear, like, the maximum chonk for, like, years on years, they probably would have just called this original or like, you know, Gen 1 Pikachu or something like that. It's good.
It is essentially Gen 1 Pikachu. Like, I have, like, a bit of nostalgia for Gen 1 Pikachu, but as the Pikachu designs changed over the years, I don't like the current iteration of Pikachu right now. They make Pikachu's head too round.
There's something to it.
Yeah, so Pikachu's design over the years, I'm like, Pikachu's a bit too round. I feel like...
With this one, he's a bit too wide after the head, because, like, someone apparently has the original here, and it's like, looking at it, it's like, I kind of understand, like, the head, gorgeous. The body is, like, in order to do, like, the original, it's like, they could have kept it thin. Oh, Jesus.
Also, careful, you accidentally looked at not safe for work stuff.
Yeah, there we go. This stream is gonna get, like, you know, quick sort of thingamadook because of that. I thought it was safe with the Pokemon 30th anniversary tag. Is there a way for us to...
Hell no! What the hell is wrong with you, man? Rubicon, don't you know what Pokemon fans are like?
Degenerates. Fine. Alright, so if we go to... Fine, let's go to news. Because the news is never not safe for work. Pokemon Day 2026. Wait, January 30th is Pokemon Day? Oh, shit.
Yeah. Hey, I'll be going back into Pokemon Sapphire, so that's fine. I believe Pikachu's best design, in my opinion, was like Gen 3. Like, it's where Pikachu got a bit slim enough that the proportions were right, but it still felt like Pikachu was a little bit chunky.
Hang on, let's see. So, all right, so let's have a look at the Gen 1. So Gen 1 was as it is there.
You need to look at original Gen 1, not Gen 3's remake of Gen 1.
This is the Gen 1 Dex, and then it goes Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5, 6, da, da, da.
Yeah, but remember, because of how the Pokédex works for each gen, remember, Gen 3 got Fire Red Leaf Green, so they started using Gen 3 sprites.
Yeah, so this is Fire Red Leaf Green, as you can see here. And then you go over to Gen 1, where it just shows, like, that's why... Granted, it's absolutely fucking tiny. Like, let me try and make this bigger, if it will let me. So there's the Gen 1 there. Like...
Yeah.
So I think this one on the far right, this one is, the Pokemon Yellow, that's Special Edition, right?
Yeah, that's Pokemon Yellow. Yeah, Pokemon Red, Blue / Green, depending on where you live. They didn't have designs fully made. Well, and then Pokemon Yellow, they used the inspiration from the anime.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Pokemon Blue's Pidgey, you're like, what the hell is this?
And then we got Gen 2, where it was way more in line with the anime by then, and they went for a little more experimentation on the 3D-ness. And then we jump over to Gen 3, where Ruby and Sapphire... Oh,
yeah, Gen 2...
Emerald like they did.
Gen 2's is pretty cute, but Gen 3's I find to be perfect Pikachu. I
agree, but that's probably because of a bias of Emerald was like the last Pokemon game I went start to finish.
But once you start going beyond Gen 3, you notice Pikachu getting a bigger head.
It feels way more here at Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Because, like, you got Diamond and Sapphire where it's like the head, you know, is smaller than the body.
Diamond and Pearl.
No, Diamond and Pearl. Like, see, look at this. Look at the...
Yeah, because you said Diamond and Sapphire.
I said Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Listen!
Yeah, you said Diamond and Sapphire, and then you said Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
I know what I said. I said Heart Gold, Soul Silver. God damn. Oh. But yeah, so yeah, Diamond and... So, oh yeah, I said Diamond and Sapphire here. Diamond and Pearl, sorry. Alright. Small head, relatively okay body. And then Platinum, they changed it. And then Heart Gold, Soul Silver, then they started doing the bigger head thing. Oh, and then they were doing... So this was when they were starting doing male-female differences. Okay, okay.
Yeah, the difference is in the tail.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. Which I actually admire the gender differences, because it's those small touches that just makes them different.
Yeah, yeah. And then this is Gen 5. What game came out in Gen 5? Was that
Black, White, Black 2, White 2. This is where they based the region on New York.
Oh no, it was Paris, not New York, but I get you.
France is Gen 6.
Gen 5 city reference. Damn it! Reference to Broadway, which is located in Manhattan. Damn it. I thought I knew what I knew. Alright, and then this is Gen 6, which is when they went over to 3D, which is... And then they have, like, all these different avatars here, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I'm not too much a fan of, like, how it looks when they swap from 2D to 3D. Like, I don't know.
Them going to 3D, I didn't mind. Like, I honestly think... Who agrees with me on this? Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 are the best Pokemon 3D games in terms of just pure battling.
Okay, but like that's because
story,
they're
just pure battling.
Yeah, but that's because they're explicit battle with, like, you know, the system from Gen 1 and Gen 2 on top of 3D. Like, and also like so much better moves, whereas in Gen 6, like, I don't remember them doing like really crazy 3D work like they did with like when I was going through Digimon on stuff.
Now, the thing is, each Pokemon in Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 had its own unique faint animation.
Oh,
like
that's
Porygon,
cool.
when Porygon faints, Porygon falls into a pile of its pieces. It just falls apart.
What?
And Jigglypuff just immediately deflates into like a flat balloon, just like becomes flat and just floats around to the ground.
Custom feints. Hang on a second. All
Yeah, and
feint
then
animations.
Camp. Oh my god, there's a video of all feints? Oh, okay. So for some of them, it's like, whatever. Like, what are you gonna do with some of them?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that with Charmander, they have like the circling eyes and such, and then they don't in the later iterations.
It's
and
also
Squirtle. Like, look at that! Squirtle's already doing like a little different from the original too.
Yeah, you see what I mean? Like, just like these small touches are just great.
Yeah.
I know Jinx has a funny one.
Okay, so apparently it peaks around 4 minutes and 30. So, who are they looking for?
Oh, is it Alakazam? Oh my god, Alakazam has a funny one.
Oh! Kadabra is pretty good.
I've seen Abra just have a freaking seizure before fainting. It's like...
Yeah. And the next one is... Rapidash. It was okay.
If you find Jinx is funny.
How far... Where is Jinx in, like... Because right now that's slow bro.
Jinx is closer to the end of the Pokédex, but there are some that... I know Electrode, like... You know Electrode, right?
Yeah, oh, okay, so it's gonna be around here, because here's Seeking. Hi there, Vel. Slowpoke, no, they fainted.
It actually took them, like, maybe a minute before they realized they fainted.
Alright, so there's Mr. Mime.
My hiya! Freaking Starmie and Starmie's like, I've given up hope.
What the hell did Jinx do?
Yeah, legit, Jinx is one of the funnier ones. I don't know how it works or why this happens. Like,
honestly, this is cool. Like, although I feel like this falls under the realm of because of how subtle like a number of these are, I feel like this falls into the realm like in, oh my gosh, the animation of the horse in Red Dead Redemption 2 is so detailed. Like, it falls into that category where you're not gonna really pay attention to the horse.
no, you're not. It's like things like if you look at Porygon, you'll be like, what the hell did you do to my boy? I'm going to
So past the evolutions. That's cool. If they were like a different, if there was like, you know, oh, I thought he was shooting. This one, nah,
yeah,
it doesn't. They just.
Yeah, like Porygon is like, how dare you make him do that? I'm gonna end you. That's how I feel if you take down my Porygon. Like Magnemite and Magneton, just
Snorlax gets back up to do their shot and then fall backwards.
Yeah. Like, imagine you just like, oh, I'm about to die, and you just get up and like, oh.
Yeah, you just get up after a good nap, and you're like, no,
I understand that feeling. Like sometimes you know you just get up and then you're like, oh, you lose your sense of balance. Dratini just becomes like a stick. Magnemite and Magneton, what they do is, you know, all their magnets and screws. It just falls off them. They just dismantle, like explode, dismantle. That's it.
Gen 8 doesn't look too bad for Pikachu. Like that reminds me. This is good.
Gen 8, yeah. This is when they started solidifying their designs. Like, I still don't like how Pikachu's got like a really round head.
Oh, like, good. Oh yeah, and then these are all the different Pokemon sets and such like that. Buy my Pokemon set. Sure thing, Pokemon. 300 euros. Maybe not, Pokemon. Alright. That is going to be it for me. Alright, so I've got... Let me do some assembly changes. So we're not using the pulse gun. We're going to use a plasma. Pile driver, I think, will still be good. Missiles will be decent, but I am going to change to the bipedal again because we need to be able to like make the jump. Otherwise, we're gonna have some problems. So yeah, we're going between Infera, Mind Alpha, and Beta. Generator is fine. This is fine. All right. This will probably be our last try before I have to like call it a quick stream and.
Operations. Orders.
Oh.
My friend's mission. Eliminate all obstacles.
But you see what I mean when I say that Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 have personality and class compared to the current ones. Like, all Pokemon faint the same way in modern 3D games. They're just like, I fall over.
Yeah.
I want to see, like, Jinx just explode into a wig again. I don't know why, but it's just funny to me.
Oh, Jesus, he's gonna be... Okay, maybe Plasma might not be good, because I can't... Like, it's doing damage, but it's not stunning him soon enough to do some... Oh, Jesus! Come on. He knows to get out of the way of, like, Plasma.
At 50%. AP at...
I'm looking at... Okay, so apparently we don't have a price on that Pikachu.
A good stun, and then...
Voice. 621. I see it next to you. Yes. Kindling for the fire.
Right. We're re-entering Rubicon's atmosphere.
The greatest obstacle. Eliminated.
That didn't do it. Almost. A lot of close calls with stunning, but never close enough, so... time to go with the Zimamir to get some... Because if we get close enough, then we'll probably be able to do some greater...
The corporation's orders. No. My friend's mission. Eliminate all obstacles.
Whatever they did, you're in danger. We have to defend ourselves.
Let's see. What do I need to do today? I know that I need to level up off stream for Pokemon Sapphire. Anything a Monster Hunter. Technically, that event quest.
AP at 50%.
People are asking me to help them for Savage Omega.
I don't know if I want to do Savage Omega.
Next to you.
It's because, like, okay, if I use dual blades, yeah,
For the fire.
I can actually DPS and heal you guys.
There's no time. Hurry.
If I do Sword and Shield, I could DPS and also heal as well. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Like, what is everyone got for this year? Like, what's your main goals? Like, I already know what my main goals are, which is just currently deal with my current financial issues.
Same.
Which is obviously save more money,
Mm-hmm.
look for a bit more happiness, as well as just starting to improve upon what I got. Like, I'm not doing the thing like losing weight because that's not what I'm after. I'm looking for gaining a bit of weight in the form of muscle.
Yeah, no, I've gone back onto like the intensive shake diet myself in order to, because I got like really close to 110, which isn't very great, and I want to avoid that. So
Obstacles.
Oh yeah, I need to get a haircut later. I'm starting to look like what I looked like in high school.
yeah,
We have to defend ourselves.
AP.
Yeah, which is the part where people are either half the people say you look good with long hair, while the other half say you look like a girl.
Eliminated.
my hair, like IRL, like you'll see this in like if you see me in a Monster Hunter game, but like more often than not, like if I let my hair grow out and such like that, IRL it's more of like a like frizzy mess and what have you. So in some video games I'll go for like an afro or something like that, or like crazy swept back rather than, you know, the hair that you see this persona with.
Man, imagine you with a mullet.
Yeah. Would be crazy.
Like,
I would
you'll
not.
be like,
I think I've had people like at work be like, get a mullet or something crazy like that, and it's like, no, I wouldn't.
I seen you IRL, and I think you would look great in a mullet.
Yeah, I
You
do
will look-
not trust you. I don't trust anyone who tries to tell me a mullet. All right, I'm not that Aussie. Mullets are incorrect. Thank you, Velk. Mullets are just, you know, in like, unless you are an archetype of like, let's say like, you know, some sort of blah, blah, blah. Unless you're an archetype of like surfy or something like that, mullets are not it. I am so sorry. You are not going to get
like,
me
he would.
with mullets.
Zeebs would look like a freaking what is it? A cricketer, all right?
Yeah, but I don't play cricket, so it would be terrible. And what's more is no cricketer is going for a mullet in this modern age, okay?
Oh, nowadays, freaking everyone looks the same.
Well, to be fair, I
not
don't
even
follow
joking.
cricket, so that statement does stand. But I'm not going to try and be different by getting a mullet. I am already different by having a persona. So yeah.
You say that now.
Oh, you think we're going to have more and more people with personas?
Oh, we're gonna get more and more things later. I don't think it's just gonna stop at sonas. Like, we're gonna go into more like astrological stuff as well. We're gonna go into deeper lore-based things, and then we're gonna be addressing people by so many labels. I'll be like, "What are you again?"
Nah. I reckon with things like personas, I reckon like they much like left-handedness, there's going to be a limit. It's gonna, like, sure, it grows like, you know, year on year, but I think like as a percentage thing, like it's gonna teeter off. Astrological, like how Mercury was in Gatorade.
Yeah. How do you think
So close.
Mercury got into Pisces?
So close to getting that right. It's just like Mercury is in Gatorade. Meanwhile, we're waiting for the Fantasia of Pisces. Just weird nonsense like that. But yeah, I had to look at the time. It's 10:30. I told myself I was gonna, like, you know, keep this as a short stream because I have to. I have like a lunch plan with my sister, so I need to travel to get to that. So I am going to be hopping offline, but before we run away instantaneously, I am going to see who is online and who we can go and raid. Oh boy, Noetic Chasm's online streaming. Oh, chat, if you like big boys, Noetic Chasm is an amazing artist. They're responsible for like their like VTuber persona that they have on stream right now, and they are absolutely fantastic art. Be sure to tell them that kind of stuff if they ever mention that they do art and what have you. We're gonna go with Himbo Raid. Show us your cutest guys, gals, and non-binary pals, or prepare to get swole. If you are If you are not subscribed, that's okay. You're welcome to use whatever other kinds of emotes that you want. I am going to be using one of my emotes, so that will be a-okay by me.
That's it. I'm gonna spit in your mouth.
Well, the first time Blue messages in, and so it has to do like the little applaud. Hey, yay, you're here, and then your random blue line. It's funny. But yeah, that is going to be it for me today. It was a short stream. I will need to figure out what the schedule is going to be and such like that. It looks like that might be. It says chapter conclusion. I feel like that might not just be a chapter conclusion, but a game conclusion as well. So I think I'm at like the tail end of Armored Core, and I just need to finish that either on the Monday, or we just, move on and pick new games to go through. I still need to debate whether or not I'm going to go through like sustainable, like, game progression where it's like, Monday, Wednesday, something or rather, like do the game more than one time in the week, or if we're going to be going different games, but that's for me to decide. And otherwise, hope you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, night, and I'll see you next time.